Hello everyone, it's Cassie here and welcome back to my YouTube channel for another video. Today we're going to be playing with the Hoppy Days Ahead, which is the Simon Says Stamp March kit for 2022, and it is still available as of filming, so I'll have it linked down below, and if not, then we'll have the separate pieces available as well. But let's jump into what's in there. There is a mesh bag. I love their mesh bags because everything fits inside of them. We also, of course, have candy. You have to have candy. We have some of their craft tacky glue, which I really like. It's great. We also have the SEAFOAM Positively Saturated ink pad. We have a small teal blending brush. We have the 3 white POMs and a button. We also have the 3x3 Simon Says Stamp Small Clouds stencil. We have the 2 Suzy watercolor cards along with the Hoppy Easter sentiments. We also have 2 A2 envelopes in metallic silver and white. Then we have our coupon code, which I'll have that listed down below as well. Then we have the patterned paper, which is from Paper Rose. It's called Wildflower Field, and they're 6x6 and double-sided, and they are gorgeous. Ooh, love the colors in this, very springy. Then, of course, we have our Hoppy Days Ahead stamp set. So many cute little bunnies in there and lots of amazing sentiments. There's also an avocado slimline envelope. We have our idea sheet, and then we have some paper in lavender, smoke, cornflower, and Nina 110-pound solar white. So here are all the images that I had watercolored. I stamped them out using some VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink onto some watercolor cardstock, and then just had fun watercoloring them. I didn't know how many of these images I would use. I fussy cut them all out, but I know that there is a matching die, so I will have that listed down below as well. For our first card, we're going to make a couple of mini slimline. So those are 6 inches by 6 inches, scored at 3 inches, if you're unfamiliar with what mini slimline are. And I love to make these. They're great. They're small, easy to do, and perfect for patterned paper. So I took one of those patterned papers and I cut it in half. So that means it's 3 inches by 6 inches. And I'm just going to cut it down a little bit. So it's like 3.5 inches. And then I'm going to cut a small strip once I flipped that over for each of these as well, and that'll make a nice little border in between the pattern paper and the cardstock. And so that's how that's going to look. I like that look. And then I'll grab out whatever bunny I'm thinking. So first I thought that one, and then I loved the 2 little bunnies hugging. Oh, so stinking cute. And then the sentiment I'm going to use. I'm going to use thinking about you a lot, simply because or I'm going to use the sentiment thinking about you, but I'm going to use it a lot because that seems to be the cards that I need the most. Thinking about you, thank you, and happy birthday are my go-tos. So I'm gluing everything down onto the front of my panel, flip it over and trim it down if I need to. And then for our little bunnies, before I attach them, I'm going to do my sentiment first. So I'll use that VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink and stamp that in the upper left-hand corner. It's just such a nice, stark black cardstock. It's so crisp, and so it's perfect for sentiments. And then I'm going to add some foam tape to the back of our little bunnies, just to have them popped up a little bit. So not too crazy, but just to give a little bit of dimension. And then I'll stick those right there. I have a sentiment I want to put on the inside as well, so that's all ready to go. But I figure if I'm going to make one slimline, I might as well make 2. So cute. And then our sentiment that goes on the inside is wishing I could hug you. I think that's sweet. And I want to embellish these. So I'm going to pull in these strawberry and champagne confetti. There are some flat back sequins. And so I'm going to put those down with my little Trinity pickup stick. And I'll tack that down with a little bit of the Barely Art glue. And once those are done and down, that's going to finish off these first 2 cards for you. I think they're so darling. And that pattern paper is so pretty. So there's the first card. All right, moving on to card number 2, we're going to take this patterned paper and we're going to trim this down to be 4 inches by 5.5 inches. So that means that there's going to be a little bit of a border on either the right or left hand side, or a very small border on both sides. I think I decided to put this all the way to the right hand side, so there's going to be a blue border on the left hand side. But I was thinking that I really wanted to put a little scene on there, so I'm grabbing some of my watercolor cardstock that I had that was just a strip of it, just a little bit of extra, and I am going to stamp at the very bottom a couple of the grass and then the grass with the flowers. I'll stamp those down at the bottom and I'll watercolor those the same way that I did with our bunnies. I'm not going to show you all of that because this is more about the ideas than the watercoloring. I do have shorter videos that you can check those out if you really want to see any watercoloring. But that's how that's going to look, and I fussy cut that down. I like how you can make the grass extend as long as you want it to. And then I wasn't sure exactly which bunny I wanted to use there either, but I thought that one who looked like he was smelling the flowers was perfect. So I'll glue this down to the front of our patterned paper, and then I am going to use some foam tape on our bunny, I think I do. Yeah, I do. And then I need a sentiment for this. Even though there's sentiments all over the back, I felt like I needed one central sentiment. So I'm going to, once again, use the Thinking of You. And I'm going to stamp that onto some black cardstock that I have. So I'll just use an anti-static powder tool on that, stamp that down with some juicy embossing ink, and then cover that with the Simon Says Stamp white embossing powder. And then I can heat set that till those are smooth and melted. I figured if I was doing one, I might as well do two because I'll probably use the other one for another card. And then I'll use foam tape on the back of our sentiment. And I'll attach that down to the upper right hand corner and then trim off the excess that I have. And then I can get my card base ready, which measures 5.5 inches by 8.5 inches and scored at 4 1/4. So it is a side folding A2 size card. And then we'll use our liquid glue on the back and adhere that down all the way to the right hand side, so we do have that blue border on the left hand side. Super fun. And that's going to finish off our second card. Cute little scene with that little bunny. I love that one too. All right, for our third card, we're going to make a regular size slimline. So I have my cardstock cut down to 7 inches by 8.5 inches, and I'm going to score that at 3.5 inches. So when that is closed, it will be 3.5 inches by 8.5 inches. Then I'm going to need to cut down my patterned paper, so I'm going to cut that down to 3.5 inches. And then I'll do the same thing with the green one. And then we'll adhere down our bottom portion to the very bottom part of our panel, or our base. I did end up cutting this a little too big, so I'm going to have to trim that off. But my little trick here is so that I don't screw up the cutting, I'm going to go ahead and put the glue right onto the base, and then I can adhere the upper portion. And then I can bring in my guillotine trimmer and make sure that that's a nice straight line, but that it fit all the way across. So with that leftover paper you see there that's on the, after I cut that off, we're going to use that too. So here I am just lining that up in the guillotine trimmer and making sure that I can trim off any of that excess, which was easy to do. And so now I want to do some stenciling. So I'm going to bring in the little Small Clouds stencil, and I'm going to pull in the SEAFOAM Positively Saturated ink pad. And I'm not going to use the blender brush that came with it. I'll just use the blender brush that I already have, because I haven't quite decided if I want to commit that to a teal color. And I typically, when I have blender brushes, I like to have them committed to a color. That way I don't have to do a lot of cleaning, if you know what I mean. All right, so now we'll just very lightly go through that stencil. And here I guess I got too much ink on the blender brush, and I end up pushing a little too hard. And so it is very saturated there, but that's okay. We're going to work with that. No big deal. I cut down my panel, and now I'm going to attach this to the front of my card base. And then I'll take another little strip and put that down at the bottom with the flowers just to make it look like it's more grounded, if that makes any sense. And then I'll attach down our sentiment. And then I'll do the same thing with our bunnies that I have with the others. I'll add foam tape to the back of those. And then I can stick those down. I do, and you'll see it in the after picture, I take the 2 little POMs that were in the kit and I put those on their little bums because it's just too cute not to have those on there. So you'll see that in the picture, and I love how it looks. But I'm going to also put this little heart down right in between them because, yes, why not? They're so cute. But take a look at our card. In the after picture, you'll see the little puffs on their bums. Isn't that adorable? So that finishes off our next card. So card number 4 is going to use one of the panels. Yes, I already watercolored all of the panels. just to save a little time. But I love these Suzy cards, these Suzy watercolor cards, because it's so great to just take them places. You can watercolor while you're thinking about, or doing stuff or waiting for things or watching TV. But I did cut down this panel using my Heffy Doodle stitched rectangles, and then I'll get my card base ready. And then I can attach this panel to the card base. There's a nice stitched edge around that. And I used Daniel Smith watercolors, so yeah, those are pretty nice watercolors to have, but any watercolors will work on this. This paper is really a very good paper to use. I'm going to stamp out the Thinking of You again. I know you're surprised. And then I'm going to trim that down with my guillotine trimmer. It's just I use so many Thinking of You and Thank You and Birthday. Those seem to be the ones that I need the very most. So, or that I send the very most. So we'll glue this down. I decided not to use any foam tape. And then I'll flip that over and trim that off. And that's going to finish off card number 4. But yeah, those panels are so much fun to color. So for card number 5, we're going to do the same thing. It's the other watercolor panel that I had already ready to go as well. And I'm going to use those same stitched rectangles, but this time I'm going to do a border. But there we have our watercolor card. And I did a border, and then I used the next biggest one so that way I could have that nice frame for our patterned paper. And there's stitching on both of those. So now I'm just going to fussy cut around our little bunny. You could completely avoid this if you wanted to, but I don't mind fussy cutting. Or I suppose some of you could use the silhouette if that's what you have. I've heard great things about it. And once I'm done trimming that out, that'll ensure that you can see that patterned paper behind us. And then I needed to have a sentiment, so I'm going to bring in the Hoppy Easter sentiments, and I will eventually trim those down. But let's get our frame down to our card base. So I'm just using some liquid glue, and I'll put the frame down first. That's the easier way to do this. And then that rectangle that you see there, I will attach that down in between. That way I'm not wasting any of that patterned paper as well. And then we can just glue down our bunny as well. So it's a nice heavy duty watercolor cardstock. I believe it's the Tim Holtz Distress watercolor cardstock that they have those printed on, which is great because it's a nice white cardstock and it handles watercolors beautifully. All right, so now that that's down, we're going to pull in those Hoppy Easter sentiments, and I'll use my guillotine trimmer to trim down the ones that I want. And then we'll attach that to the front that says hopping by to say. And the inside is, there is no bunny like you. And then I will put some of these bunnies on the insides of the cards since I have so many of them. And here's Miles. But there's card number 5. Miles is checking it all out, and then he's going to try and knock this thing off because it's Miles. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at all 5 of the cards that I made for you today. I would love to know which one was your favorite, if you did, in fact, have a favorite. Go ahead and leave that down in the comment section down below. As I always say, that really is my favorite part of doing videos like this, is just hearing which ones you guys like. So if you liked this video, also be sure to hit that like button and consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. And as always, I'll see you very soon in another video. Bye, everybody.